satisfaction the ever-growing cooperation between our two countries, as evidenced by the existing 40 agreements and memoranda of understanding. These agreements are aimed at promoting political, economic, and social cooperation. They cover a wide range of areas, including double taxation, justice, defense, transport, water, science and technology, health, migration, labor, economic and trade cooperation, and tourism, to mention but a few.
I'm pleased that we have chosen the path of cooperation, consultation, dialogue, engagement, and joint action in order to secure our common future. We meet today in that common spirit.
All right, well, for more on this, we crossed our reporter, Aldrin St-Pierre. He's in Pretoria. Aldrin, good afternoon to you. Let's start with the 5 agreements of this binational commission. What will these cover?
Well, the 5 agreements include quite specifically 2 ICT agreements. I just want to give you visuals of what's currently happening inside. The Minister of Telecommunications, Siyabonga Cwele, signing one of those ICT agreements with the Minister, his counterpart in Zimbabwe. So the ICT agreements will be looking into the development infrastructure in ICT across South Africa as well as in Zimbabwe as well, and to find solutions to what President Jacob Zuma spoke to earlier on about, as well as the cost of these telecommunications, the cost of connectivity. And Jacob Zuma earlier on speaking about the importance of connectivity across both countries, and of course the cost of this connectivity, which is something quite important. But earlier on, President Robert Mugabe also highlighted what he called cyber attacks on the economy of Zimbabwe. You would remember that the economy of Zimbabwe has suffered a lot since 2008, since 2009 as well. And at some point, the country, Zimbabwe, then decided to adopt the US dollar to be the currency of trading. And I have heard some discussion, speculation rather, that there could be a proposal from Robert Mugabe that Zimbabwe also adopts the South African rand, as the Zimbabwean economy continues to struggle, especially the availability of US dollars in circulation in Zimbabwe.
Let's also talk about.
There you have Edna Molewa, the Minister of.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Aldrin.
Well. Sorry about that, Natasha. That is the Minister of Environmental Affairs, Edna Molewa, who is also signing an agreement with her Zimbabwean counterpart. Earlier on, while I was speaking to Dr. Bongani Ngulunga from the presidency, the spokesperson of the presidency indicated that one of the agreements is also environmental as well as the energy agreement between the two countries. Remember back in 2015 as well, when Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe was in the country, there was discussion around having a servitude that runs from South Africa through Zimbabwe, Zambia, and all the way to the DRC. Indications are that that is still on the table as it stands, and this discussions that are currently taking place, and these agreements would then help accelerate the implementation and the rollout of the servitude and improving electricity availability across the continent, especially the southern region of Africa.
So then another talking point that both presidents touched on was that so-called one-stop shop border post. Tell us a bit more about that.
Field of energy.
Well, the one-stop shop, the border post that President Jacob Zuma spoke about, says dating back to 2009 already, there was an agreement. Let me just quickly show you the visuals here of Minister Nglesi, the Minister of Sports, and this is the Minister of Sports, an agreement also on sports. But earlier on, when I tried to speak to Dr. Ngulunga about this agreement on sports, he couldn't really go into detail about it, what exactly it is that South Africa as well as Zimbabwe could learn from each other when it comes to sports. He even joked and said that there was a time when Zimbabwe's soccer was way better than South Africa's soccer. Don't know whether our football or our soccer has improved over since the past few years, or whether Zimbabwe would be able to teach South Africa a lesson or two when it comes to soccer. But just on a question that you asked earlier on about the Bait Bridge. The Bait Bridge, one of the busiest border posts on the continent. President Jacob Zuma touched on that. People spend days at that border post. So there has been this tension around the ease of doing business between South Africa as well as Zimbabwe, and the ease of goods and services flowing through that border post, but also Zimbabweans as well. You know that South Africa has plus minus 200,000 Zimbabweans who benefit from the special visa that the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Zimbabwe was speaking about earlier on. So there is a lot of traffic flowing through that border post. So there has been a demand to make sure that there's this one-stop shop, and this one-stop shop will also include a office of the Department of Trade and Industry.
All right, Aldrin, thanks so much for that. We'll leave it there. Our Aldrin St. Pierre live from that binational commission, which is underway in Pretoria.